I've been concussed 5 or 6 times that are memorable. So the most serious one was a complete blackout. I mean, I woke up on the bench and I didn't really remember much about the hit, just woke up on the bench and had a really bad headache for, I'd say, about a week afterwards. Back in the old days, if you took a concussion, your coach tended to tell you to just shake it off and get back out there. If you were able to skate, then you were back on the ice.
I also started playing ice hockey in the late 70s and early 80s, and I can't recall much discussion of head injuries either. But in the years since I strapped on my first skates, many coaches in many contact sports have changed how they deal with concussion. From hockey to American football and rugby, public awareness has grown of how such incidents can have long-term health consequences. And some companies are working to develop technologies to help deal with those risks, particularly for kids who play the sports. The Reebok Check Lite is one such effort. Reebok says that the device doesn't diagnose concussion, but is an impact indicator, and pitches it as an extra tool to help coaches identify when a blow to the head could be dangerous.
The way the device works is it has a number of lights, and the color of the light indicates the severity of the impact. Amber means more or less a moderate hit, but red suggests that it's the kind of impact that could lead to a concussion. I'm going to test it out by just hitting on my hand to see what happens. Red. So that's a severe impact, and the idea being this is an indication to coaches, trainers, parents that maybe the player needs to be checked out.
It's not just in contact sports that new takes on old devices are trying to help minimize risk in sport. London-based startup Blaze is bringing ingenuity to urban cycling. Co-founder Emily Brooke turned her university project into the Laser Light, a bike light that uses a laser to project the symbol of a bicycle 6 meters in front of the rider.
I wanted to find the biggest challenge for city cyclists, whatever it was, and tackle it. I didn't care if it was getting wet or your bike nicked or getting lost, but it had to be the biggest problem. And straight away, speaking to cyclists, personal safety. Personal safety was the biggest barrier. 79% of bikes that are hit are travelling straight ahead and somebody else turns into them. It has a normal light, it has a white LED, but then it also has a green laser. We use laser because laser is very good for projection. So we use these brand new technology called direct diodes, which is actually developed for pico projectors in mobile phones, but it really is a kind of cutting edge of laser diode technology.
While Reebok and Blaze are clear about what their technology can and can't do, some worry that many products don't match the marketing hype behind them.
It's probably a bit oversold, and it's great for some of the instant feedback in terms of looking at your split time when you run, or looking at a GPS map of the distance that you've covered, potentially even your heart rate. But actually, do real weekend warriors know what their heart rate really means, or that it's really going to change their performance? They don't have a sports scientist analysing them and helping them and telling them. And ultimately, consumers need instant gratification.
Dr. De Medici says that the really big step will be in data. As we get better at analysing the reams of information being collected by all these sensors and apps, it will become increasingly possible to use technology to manage safety in sport.
These health and fitness apps, the ones that are probably useful are the ones that tell you what to do. So if you want to look at a particular exercise or a particular way of training. And a lot of the other thing, I think, is still a lot of hype, but potentially, I think really where the big changes may come is once we start to gather a lot more of this data. The value is in the data. If we can collect, if more people can start to feed in their data and we can analyse that, then we can start to give people more information about how to use the data they collect and how that data can influence their training or their performance.
The only surefire way to get rid of every health hazard in sport is to either change behaviour or change the rules of the game. Until that happens, new technologies are emerging that at least help us to identify and mitigate against some of the risks. And while it will be dangerous to think that any device will prevent us from ever getting injured, it won't hurt to look at new innovations coming down the line. Ravi Mattu, Financial Times, London.